What's up, football world? I am Bucky Brooks, and this is the Bucky Brooks Show. And once again, because my Jaguars are hot, my Jaguars are going into the postseason as the AFC South champs. We're going to dedicate this one to all my people down in Duval getting it ready because the playoffs are coming Sunday, 1 o'clock Eastern. Buffalo Bills are venturing down to the bank to take on the Jacksonville Jaguars in the wild card round, and it should be great. Super wild card round is fun, it's exciting, and we will preview that matchup with the Buffalo Bills on Thursday podcast when we talk about that game, and we'll talk about the rest of the playoff games to kind of just have a little preview what to expect on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, because it's a 3-day weekend when it comes to the postseason. But if you know now, man, like the Jaguars are so exciting. This is the best season that I've been associated with, not only as a player, but now as a broadcaster. And it's not necessarily because of the record. I got to tell you, man, it's because of the feel and the vibe of the team. This team just has a different energy. This team has a different feel about it than any other team that I've been around. And as someone who loves football, who's a football junkie, I can tell you there's so many lessons to be learned about this team and the way they were able to bounce back from a 4-13 mark last season to turn it around to be 13-4, riding an 8-game heater going into the postseason. There's so many things to observe, so many things to take account of, and so many things to be excited for as we look to not only this year, but to the future. This is a team that essentially is almost like the same roster with a few odds and ends, a few additions here. You have a new brain trust that took over in Liam Coen, James Gladstone, and Tony Baselli. The trio has changed the culture. Liam Coen has provided some, I said, behind the curtains sneak peeks at what the culture means. He had a nice video that went viral earlier in the week where you talked about cleats on the ground, being focused on what's right in front of them, next play mentality, and all the things that he's been preaching privately amongst the team. He's now beginning to share that with the masses. The other thing that he has begun to share and talk about is just how intentional he was with the team in terms of building relationships. He building relationships with Trevor and others, the coaches being very intentional about how they built relationships with their players and really investing in the people. And the investment in the people led to a better on-field product. I think that is terrific because even though it's a pro game, it's pro sports, and most of these guys will operate as independent contractors, CEOs of their own brand within the framework of a team, it still is a team game, and you still need to have that connectivity to be able to play at a high level. That is played out when you look at these guys. There's a genuine feel for one another. And I think, look, let's be honest. I think the exchange that everyone has seen there where Jarian Jones, after the game, gives Trevor Lawrence the grill, making fun of the meme that is also going viral with Trevor. I think they call it Steezy Trev, where he has the grill, he has chain and all that has been on T-shirts and all that. When Jarian Jones does that and gives Trevor a legitimate grill after the game, and Trevor not only like embraces it, but he takes the picture. It is the avatar on the thing. It tells you everything about how these guys are connected. One, offense to defense, for Jarian Jones, a defensive player, to give Trev something like that on behalf of the team. It really tells you that the defense truly believes in him. And they believe in him, not only the player, but they believe in the guy, and that he has been able to kind of make his way across the locker room to touch everybody where they really feel like the team is like that. To me, the best part of the celebration, outside of getting the hats and the T-shirts, was to see that come to fruition where the world had an opportunity to see the closeness that this team has. And when I think about the closeness that this team has, yes, it's about performance and production and those things, but it's about the bonds and stuff that they have created. And those bonds have enabled them to run an 8-game winning streak through the regular season, to dominate opponents. I mean, when you look at this, like last 8 games, during the winning streak. They've been winning by an average of 19 points per game. I mean, these are not close games. They're absolutely obliterating folks when they have the opportunity. And they are doing it while no one is selfishly, I would say, hogging the ball, hogging the attention, or worrying about getting the credit. You got to remember, this is a team that didn't have a whole lot of Pro Bowlers, which is kind of crazy when you think about this team being 13-4, having one of the best records in the league. And I think it was just one Pro Bowler that was recognized. Is disrespectful, and the disrespect keeps growing as people talk about this team or dismissive of this team. They obviously haven't watched this team, but yet they have strong opinions about why this team will falter, and they open up as an underdog at home, which is so disrespectful. But before we talk about those odds and the game and those things, I think it's really important that I open up by talking about Trevor Lawrence and why Trevor Lawrence is a league MVP. And I know this is going to come off as a homer statement, but Trevor has given us the numbers to really back up and validate his case for being the MVP. You think about this team having 13 wins. You think about Trevor having a 4,000-yard passing season, 38 total touchdowns. He narrowly missed joining Josh Allen and Cam Newton and those guys as being a 25-10 guy, 25 pass touchdowns and 10 rushing touchdowns. He missed out on that. He had 29 pass touchdowns, 9 rush touchdowns, but 38 total touchdowns is unbelievable. And the way that he has played the last 8 games, in particularly when his best was needed, he delivered in a big-time way. Last 8 games, he's had at least 2 touchdowns. We haven't seen that but one time since 2017, and that is Lamar Jackson in 2019. And you know what happened in 2019? Lamar Jackson won the MVP. I am just saying that Trevor Lawrence is worthy of being an MVP candidate. He's worthy of winning the MVP just on the numbers alone. But if you watched him and you watched this team, I talked about the way they are blowing the doors off teams. Average margin of victory over the last 8 games is 19.1. They're consistently putting up over 30 points a game on offense. He is completely dominating the game as a quarterback, not only as a thrower, but as a runner. All of the things that you expected him to be when he was the number 1 overall pick 5 years ago, he's now fully leaning in to that and being that player. And if you watched him, particularly on Sunday against the Indianapolis Colts, when he just lit them up, throwing dime after dime after dime to Parker Washington, Bretton Strange, Brian Thomas Jr., you can see the growth in his game, but you also can see the confidence and swag that he's playing with. He has never looked like this when it comes to throwing with touch, timing, and anticipation. He has never looked like this when it comes to his aggressiveness, but avoiding the reckless errors that really used to plague his game. We hadn't seen that from Trevor. His growth has been so remarkable that if we had to do it today in terms of where we rank him, there's no question that you have to put him in the top 10 with the quarterbacks. And based on how he's playing, I know people are going to look at the numbers and talk about the completion rate and the passer rating and those things, but you have got to watch him and you have to feel the energy that this team has when he is dealing from the pocket. But look, the voters already kind of have it in, like they have Matthew Stafford as a sentimental choice. Drake May certainly is worthy of doing it because his turnaround and the team's turnaround in New England where they have 14 wins. Look, I understand that he's the completion leader and those things, but if you're watching ball and you're looking at the way the game is played, you'll be hard-pressed to tell me that somebody's playing better than number 16 right now in the league, and you'd be hard-pressed to convince me that he's not worthy of being one of those guys that has some hardware that goes to his mantle based on being the best player in the league at this moment. But he's not the only one that deserves some hardware. I think we talk about the quarterback, but when we talk about the quarterback, we have to talk about the coach because Liam Coen is worthy of being the coach of the year. 4-13 to 13-4, division title, only the 5th division title in franchise history. The way that he has done it in taking a team that lightly regarded throughout the offseason, you expected this team to get to 500. They have not only gotten to 500, but man, they have walked through and mollywopped some really, really good teams. And we can talk about the Denver Broncos. We can talk about how they put their hands on the LA Chargers. We can talk about how they went out to Levi's Stadium, home of Super Bowl 60, and mollywopped and dismantled the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, there's a list of teams, a list of good teams, heavyweight teams that they beat up. Look, the Houston Texans, they got them once and had a 29-10 lead on them the second time before they let it go. I mean, this team has dominated really good teams. And the two losses, hey, the LA Rams put their hands on them over in London. I'll chalk that as an anomaly. The Seattle Seahawks and then played a very competitive game in the bang before the Seahawks won it. But if you look at the schedule and you look at what they've done, the Jaguars have been impressive from the jump. And that is all about the coach and Liam Coen. And the thing that I expected, and I'll be honest, I might have been a little skeptical of Liam Coen when he came over from Tampa Bay. He'd been a one-year offensive coordinator, was very young, hadn't really shown, I would say, maybe enough to maybe warrant some of the conversation about him being a head coach. But what I will tell you, he's one of the best head coaches that I've been around. And I got to tell you, like, the resume of coaches that I've been around: Marv Levy, Hall of Famer; Tom Coughlin, two-time Super Bowl winner, will be a Hall of Famer; Mike Holmgren, one-time Super Bowl winner, another guy that is destined to be in the Hall of Fame; John Gruden, a Super Bowl champion; Marty Schottenheimer, won 200 wins in the regular season. I'm telling you right now, I put Liam up there with all of them because he exhibits some of the qualities that each of these guys have in terms of his conviction, his confidence, his attention to detail, the way that he is able to manage situations, circumstances. He does all of that. The adjustments that he and his coaching staff make at halftime, they're on another level. And when you listen to the players talk, they talked about being coached and being coached hard. And the biggest difference in this team from last year's team is their ability to pay close attention to detail, to have the discipline that you need to play in the big games, to find that edge that separates them from other teams in terms of that competitive stamina, that competitive arrogance that they're playing with. All of that comes from the head coach. And you hear time and time again where analysts will say that a team is a reflection of the coach. Well, when you look at the Jaguars are a direct reflection of Liam Coen. Tough-minded, gritty. We saw him go nose to nose with Robert Saleh after Saleh had some words earlier. He ran his mouth talking about the Jaguars stealing signs and kind of making or insinuating that the Jags are cheating. Liam Coen was not having that. When Sean Payton alluded to the Jaguars being a small market team and Liam was able to quickly clap back, the team takes on his personality because he's an intense competitor. He doesn't back down, and he's fearless when it comes to making plays in these moments. He's worthy of that just because of those things in terms of how the team reflects him. But the reason why you really have to talk about him being a Coach of the Year candidate is just look at the work that he has done with the quarterback. We talk about offensive gurus, and I know quickly people are going to say, hey, look at Ben Johnson, what he's done with Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams has done great. Caleb Williams isn't playing at the level that Trevor Lawrence is playing at. What Liam has done is he's unleashed a player who's a former number one overall pick like Caleb Williams, but he has done it in a way that I would say is maybe unique and different. He loved Trevor up while holding him accountable. He wouldn't let him have the wristband early, and then eventually acquiesced and gave into him and let him have the wristband. And on the wristband, they had some of the calls on 3rd down and 2 minutes after the team struggled with some pre-snap stuff. But then the most important part is good teams get better over the course of the season. Great players get better down the stretch because the coaching puts them in a position to play to their strengths at all times. After the bye week, we have seen a different version of Trevor Lawrence, which is directly related to how Liam encouraged him. Let it rip, man. Let it go. Don't worry about the mistakes. Be fearless, not reckless, but be fearless when it comes to letting it rip. And in those moments, what he's done is he's allowed Trevor to embrace the greatness that was within. He has encouraged him to, play on the edges, to make the throws that we wouldn't see him make because he was so hesitant and maybe so afraid of making mistakes. When you look at the Jaguars passing game, they operate in the middle of the field. If you look at the number of throws that Trevor Lawrence makes, most of them are inside the numbers. He is hitting Parker Washington, Bretton Strange, Jacoby Myers right in the middle. And a lot of times, because these teams are electing to play zone, he is having to throw before the receiver is well out the break. You'll hear analysts and experts and scouts talk about throwing guys open. Trevor's throwing guys open, not only because he's fearless, but because of the design of the offense is attacking the voids in the defense. The other thing that Liam deserves a lot of credit for is his play designs. What he has done as a play designer is he's not only created mismatches, but he's exploiting mismatches and exploiting the rules of the scheme that he's facing. He has repeatedly and routinely created situations where the defense is out leveraged, the defense is unable to account for either too many receivers in the area, outflanked because of a shift or motion that kind of confuses their eyes, and you look up and someone is outside the perimeter of the defense. He has done things, particularly in the red zone, to create easy throwing touchdown opportunities for Trevor. I mean, he's been in his bag as a play caller, and he would even tell you he has left some meat on the bone in that regard. He is a very aggressive guy when it comes to going for it on fourth down. And on fourth down, man, I would say some of his best play calls are saved for that. He is a guy that keeps great plays in his pocket, and he's not afraid to roll them out when he needs it. But the Coach of the Year candidate is only as good as his assistants. And while I can heap all this praise on Liam Coen for what he has done with the offense, what he's done with the team, I would say that you have to give him a lot of credit for putting his staff together where he really took a chance on a first-year defensive coordinator, Anthony Campanili, who, look, he never called a defense, was a linebacker coach with the Green Bay Packers. He was a position coach down in Miami. He's been around great defenses, but, man, he entrusted a young guy to take control of a defense that had been struggling but didn't phase him at all. And what Anthony Campanili has done is he has transformed a defense that was absolutely terrible last year into a dominant defense. They're number one against the run. They didn't give up a rush to head over 75 yards. I mean, they are throttling top running backs and not allowing them to gain any yards. They are second in the league in takeaways, 31 takeaways, 22 interceptions, not giving up the explosives, taking the ball away. We saw that on Sunday, Antonio Johnson with the pick six. That really changed the momentum of the game. And they are doing it, I'm going to say this, with a bunch of young guys in the back end. When you're looking up at who they're playing with right now, Jarian Jones at corner, Monteric Brown at corner, Antonio Johnson at safety. Now, they have some veterans in Dewey and Eric Murray that are playing, but they're doing it with a bunch of young dudes in the back end. And the great thing about how they're doing it is they allow those young guys to develop at a time where most coaches would say, hey, let's get a veteran here. Let's pull this veteran off. Let's pull this veteran away from this team. Let's trade. Let's do whatever to make sure we have an older team because they'll get the X's and O's right. The Jaguars stood firm, played their young guys. Their young guys might have struggled early, but they got better and better over the course of the year. And now you have guys like Jarian Jones, who might be the best slot corner in football. You have Monteric Buster Brown, who looks like a number one corner in terms of his ability to take and compete against elite wide receivers. Antonio Johnson settling in as a third safety, as a nickel, as a guy who had started some games, but now comes in as a key role player when they go their big nickel package and makes plays. That's a testament to the coaching. So Anthony Campanili, we can talk about Ron Miles, Anthony President, what those guys have done in the back end has been terrific. Up front, how they really found ways to generate pressure consistently. People will talk about Josh Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker. They'll look at the sack numbers and maybe be disappointed in the numbers, but the pressure rate is at an all-time high when it comes to the Jags. They're doing it creatively. They are a team that will put Trayvon and Josh Hines-Allen on the same side, create some matchups where they can twist and stunt and work together. They make it very difficult for you to slide your protection in their way and double team one to knock them off. And he's also being able to do it with what I call control chaos. They have a simplistic scheme where they start in a two-high shield all the time, but then they'll spin and roll. Sometimes they'll give you cover zero blitzes and zone pressures, and then they'll play a traditional zone. They don't allow you to get comfortable because he's always spinning the wheel. Sometimes you'll see split safety coverage, meaning two guys up high occupying their half of the field. Sometimes they'll rock and roll to middle field close coverage. Other times they'll play man-to-man. they do a great job of changing the look each and every week, and they will use whatever coverages are needed to be able to lock down what the opponent does. To me, that is very, very hard to do because it's hard to be a chameleon in this league without having major bust, but they've been able to do it without having these blown assignments and things that lead to explosive plays that plagued the team defensively a season ago. We can talk about Campanili, but without Liam Coen having the courage to hire a young defensive coordinator who had such a big playbook, it wouldn't happen. So he deserves all the credit and all the accolades that he can get, even though it is a very competitive field. When we think about Mike Vrabel, the job he's done, terrific. Ben Johnson has done a great job in Chicago. 3 first-year guys have orchestrated tremendous turnarounds. Kyle Shanahan deserves credit for what they did in San Francisco and all that. But if you're going to have this conversation, you can't exclude Liam Coen from the conversation as a coach of the year front runner and candidate. Now let's talk about the playoffs. And what's interesting about the playoffs, and we're not going to preview the game, but we'll just talk about the playoffs and what's ahead for the Jaguars. It is great to get the hats and the T-shirts and all that for the regular season. And you enjoy that for a few days. And then you got to put the hats and the T-shirts away, and you got to cast your eyes to what's really important. And the playoffs are the most important thing because only 14 teams are able to go into this tournament. Single elimination tournament. Everything that you've always wanted hangs at the end of this tournament, meaning in this league, we play for 2 things, rings and respect. You play for the Super Bowl ring because that validates you as a champion, and you play for the respect of your peers by being on a team or by being a player who is deemed as a championship caliber player, an exceptional player based on your performance in these moments. Well, now that you're in the tournament, you have to prepare for the differences of the playoffs. And even though I love how the Jaguars have approached everything, their process has been, hey, it's about us. It's about our process, our preparation, what we do to get ready for Sundays. Then it's about trusting all of those preparations and then just turning it loose. It's about playing without worrying about the score. It's about making the next play the most important play and living through that play, good, bad, or indifferent, to go to the next play. And you stack those positive plays on top of each other. And at the end of the day, you look up at the scoreboard, and whatever the result is, it is, but you're playing to a standard. All of those things are in play, and the playoff certainly requires you to have that. But you're stepping into an arena now that is a little different than what you were playing in the regular season. In the playoffs, anybody would tell you, having been a part of, I think I played in 8 playoff games throughout my career, but teams that have gone to the postseason, to Super Bowls, and those things, I can tell you each and every round, it gets faster, it's more physical, it's more intense because these win or go home games have a finality to them. And that forces you to play on the edge because every play matters. When you are a young player, you have to understand that because that's different than the regular season. That hit, that physicality, that pace, that tempo, drastically different because everything hinges on every play, and you don't know which play is going to be ultimately the play that decides who's the winner and who's the loser. So as young players, and the Jaguars have a young team, have a bunch of young guys in prominent roles, and even though 2022, some of those guys made appearances in the postseason, the overwhelming majority of the team has not played in the postseason. So the main thing that you have to convey to the team is, hey, it's going to be a little different. The emotions are going to be running high. The sooner that you're able to control your emotions, settle into the game, and not get bogged down by the circumstance and the noise outside of the game, the better you're going to play. When I talked to Liam Coen, he talked about part of the preparation process will be the education that he has to provide to the team on how to perform in these games. Some of that is having some of these veteran players stand up and talk to the young guys about, hey, here's what the playoffs are like. Here's what we're about to embark on. Here's how we need to handle this process. The other part of it is the head coach and the other coaches talking about, here's what it's like in the postseason. Let's look at the video. Let's see what it looks like. Let's see how these games are decided. We talk about the league being a worst score game. In the playoffs, man, we're talking about one score late game. You got to close it out. It's going to be a fourth quarter affair. You got to win the last 5 minutes of the game to be able to determine if you're the last team standing that day. How do you prepare for that? One, you lean into your process. You double down with conviction on how you get your team ready to play. the Jaguars' goal each week has been to be 1-0 for the week. They'll continue to do those things. They'll continue to work on situations and that stuff, all the stuff that they've done throughout the season to put themselves in a position to be, 13-4 and AFC South champs. But now it might just go up a little bit. Not intentionally, but just because the intensity of the moment is going to require you to pour a little more into it. Now, the trick is you want to pour a little more into it, but you can't overdo it. Because if you overdo it, you get outside of yourself. You get outside of yourself, now you're going to make mistakes because you're trying too hard. Over the course of the week, the most important thing that Liam Coen and the staff can do is tell everybody, trust yourself, trust what we've done to this moment. Just do those things with even greater detail, and we'll be fine against a Buffalo Bills team that is dominant, that is A+ when it comes to what they have in a quarterback in Josh Allen. But I'm going to tell you right now, if you're asking me early, looking at the tape, yeah, this is one where the Jaguars should feel good about who they are and how they're playing and how they match up with the team that comes in there, even though we're talking about a reigning MVP in Josh Allen and, look, the league's leading rusher in James Cook. But if you're the Jaguars, man, you feel great about having this game at home. You feel great about how you match up with this team. And more importantly, you feel great about the way that you are prepared to be in these moments. Jags are underdogs by 1.5 points, according to FanDuel Sportsbook. Right now, the over-under is 51.5 points, which is interesting given the explosive nature of both teams. But it'll be interesting to see how this plays out when it comes to the scoring and those things. But I will tell you, the disrespect is real. You talk about the Jaguars being a team with 13 wins, playing at home, not being able to get, not being considered the favorite. Liam Coen has talked about not wanting to use the disrespect card, but trust, please believe that those little odds right there that you see at the lower third, those little odds are going to motivate the Jaguars to be ready to rock and roll when the game kicks off in the bank on Sunday. And before it kicks off on Sunday, make sure you come back here to the Bucky Brooks Show on Thursday, because we're going to preview that game and the rest of the other games, talk about who are going to be the last team standing in terms of who advances to divisional round, because we have some great matchups to discuss. But until then, I'm Bucky Brooks. This is the Bucky Brooks Show. Make sure you come back on the next one to talk about the Bills and Jaguars and the rest of the things that are taking place in the league. Until next time, I'm out.